This is what's left of the inside of Ruby's Bakery near North Santa Fe Avenue and El Segundo Boulevard in Compton this morning. You can see just food items and debris strewn all over the floor here. Now, Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies say this all started with a street takeover at this intersection at about 2:30 a.m. And sometime during that street takeover, a driver smashed his car purposely into the metal security gates at this business, allowing a huge group of street takeover participants inside. They ransacked the place and then scattered when sheriff's deputies arrived. Now, deputies say they haven't made any arrests.
The President of the United States was awake last night, concerned about our law enforcement officers. Pete Hegseth was involved. Everybody was there. What can we do to bring peace? What can we do to bring stability? What do we do when we have guys like Hakeem Jeffries standing up in front of the world and saying it's okay to write kill ICE? It's okay.
We are going to fight it legislatively. We are going to fight it in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
What's actually happening is they're buying voters. That's really what's happening. It's like a giant voter fraud scam. They're importing voters.
It's okay to throw things at law enforcement officers.
The reason I went so hardcore for Trump was because, to me, this was a fork in the road, a very obvious fork in the road. If they had another 4 years, they would legalize enough illegals in the swing states to make the swing states not swing states. They would be blue states. Then they would win the presidential. They'd win the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They would then make D.C. into a state. Maybe Puerto Rico, get 4 extra senators, pack the Supreme Court. So then you'll have the House, Judiciary, Senate, and presidency, all blue. And then they will keep importing more illegals to cement that outcome. Basically what happened in California.
The President of the United States was awake last night, concerned about our law enforcement officers. Pete Hegseth was involved. Everybody was there. What can we do to bring peace? What can we do to bring stability? What do we do when we have guys like Hakeem Jeffries standing up in front of the world and saying it's okay to write kill ICE? It's okay to throw things at law enforcement officers.
We are going to fight it legislatively. We are going to fight it in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
It's okay to do that. That's not okay. Not in America. We have rules. We have laws. When people are murderers and rapists, they have consequences, and we are going to make sure that they face consequences. But those statements put out by Newsom and Karen Bass is absolutely ridiculous.
We are going to fight for all Angelenos, regardless of when they got here, whether they have papers or not. We are a city of immigrants, and this impacts hundreds of thousands of Angelenos.
It's easy to understand if you look at basic incentives. The basic incentive here is the more illegals that the Democrats can bring in, the more likely they are to win. So that's what they're going to do. That's what they have been doing, and it worked in California. California's supermajority Dem. And look at all the companies that are leaving California.
Yeah.
I mean, In-N-Out just announced they're leaving. Their headquarters leaving California.
They're moving to Tennessee.
Gavin Newsom condemning the ICE raids sweeping through his state as protesters square off with federal agents in Los Angeles. Newsom saying this: continued chaotic federal sweeps across California to meet an arbitrary arrest quota are as reckless as they are cruel. Donald Trump's chaos is eroding trust, tearing families apart, and undermining the workers and industries that power America's economy. Here to discuss it is California gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton. I mean, Steve, condemning the administration for trying to keep Americans safe, including Californians. I mean, what's that about?
It's totally shameless, isn't it? But we're used to that from Gavin Newsom. You know what's chaotic? An open border where millions of people just flood into the country year after year, including dangerous criminals and terrorists. You know what's chaotic? What you've seen in California for years, which is total lack of law enforcement, of upholding the law, whether that's homeless people on the streets, criminals on the streets. And what's chaotic is just standing by all the authorities in LA yesterday issuing pathetic, pandering statements instead of standing with federal law enforcement to make sure that this is done properly. That's chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and California made healthcare free for illegals.
Yeah.
As of last year.
It's not about good people versus bad people. It's a bullshit shell game.
If you walk down the street with a MAGA hat, you're going to get attacked. If you're trying to facilitate fraud in elections, it's a great idea. Your tax money went to pay for illegal aliens in luxury hotels in New York from an agency that is meant to help Americans in distress from natural disasters.
I wanted to ask you a question. And I'm going to have to ask that you either stop recording or leave.
Can I know who it belongs to?
Yeah.
You're going to call 911 already?
Trespassing.
Yeah. Hey, sir, how you doing? We're doing a story on the area. Can I ask you a question?
No.
Oh, so this is clothes for migrants.
My name is John Featherston. I'm a former migrant shelter director in Massachusetts. I helped out in a couple different sites. A year ago, I would have 10 empty rooms, but the state would still get billed $180 a night for those 10 empty rooms. It was the biggest mistake of my life. The biggest mistake of my life. The physical violence that I took, the mental torture that I took, the rapes that I saw that never got prosecuted, little girls being raped, and I would personally drive them to the police station and the state would just cover them up. You hear some very horrific stories that, either you let me pretend to be your husband or your boyfriend or your cousin or something, or I'll kill your kid.
Si este es su vehículo, ¿es esto?
Es mío.
Es mío.
You bought this car?
Yeah, es mío. Yo vivo aquí.
Ah, tú vives ahí.
Yeah.
He lives here.
Every day I would order tens of thousands of dollars worth of product from Amazon. Every single day. 7 days a week.
The state doesn't own the building as far as I'm aware.
The state doesn't own it?
No, I think they rent it out.
The amount of money that we would spend on Ubers and Lyfts was well in excess of $100,000 a month.
Month?
I literally called the governor myself. I called the district attorney myself.
You believe Maura Healey should be prosecuted?
I believe Maura Healey should go to jail for the rest of her life for the crimes that she's committed, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, and this is my biggest exposed video yet.
Our investigation started by driving 30 minutes outside Boston to a suburb called Marlboro. Even before arriving at the shelter, you can tell that this shelter is being deliberately hidden from the public. We see the same white tarp covering the hotel sign that we've exposed across Boston and New York. When you try to book a stay for any date at this Holiday Inn, you can't. Immediately upon walking toward the shelter, I saw what appeared to be a migrant driving a brand new car. We found out that he lives there and bought the car himself, but with what money?
And with what? What do you do for work?
Well, it's mind-boggling, isn't it? This gentleman who I do not know or do not recognize, if he lives in the shelter in Marlboro, what he does is he gets free housing every day. He gets free meals every day, but he's also signed up for EBT card benefits, WIC card benefits, probably got a cell phone and a iPad computer through the Obama phone program. So he basically lives for free. All of his human necessary items are for free. And if he receives EBT card and has a family, because one of the stipulations to live in the shelter is you have to be part of a family. So he probably has two kids, let's just assume. So he's probably taken in about $3,800 a month in EBT card benefits. He's probably get his wife or his spouse or the woman that he's living with is probably be making about another $400 a month in WIC cards, women in crisis cards. The shelter, when I was there, provided free diapers, free formula, which I found that they actually ended up, because they were getting benefits, they were actually selling the diapers and formula on the black market, or selling one or more of their EBT cards on the black market. So essentially, people had all of their bills paid for and were bringing in excess of $50,000 a year. So as you saw yourself, a lot of these residents, they have brand new cars. They have nicer cars than probably you and I have. And but if I didn't have any bills and had $50,000 coming in, I'd be rich.
I then had to ask John, why are the politicians in Massachusetts doing this? Why are people who are here illegally able to receive thousands of dollars in benefits, enough to buy a car, and then also give them free housing on top of that? Now take a listen, because it's even crazier than I ever thought.
49 other states across the United States don't do this. Massachusetts is the only state that is doing this. And that's what I will tell you, the governor is misinterpreting the right to shelter law in Massachusetts. The right to shelter law came in, it was an honorable law when it was first drafted by then Governor Dukakis back in the 80s. And it was to give a pregnant woman who was in an abusive relationship a place to live in a safe, secure environment. What Governor Healy did was actively recruit at the southern border and worked with the Biden administration to send migrants to Massachusetts. Now, it's only an educated guess on my part, but Healy did this because she had ulterior motives. She wanted a job inside the Harris administration, or what she thought was going to be the Biden administration. She has bigger things. She never wanted to be the governor. She's always had bigger aspirations, and she did it under the guise that, we have to help these people. So she has enabled this to go on. I've heard some reports it's $3 billion. I will tell you it's closer to $4 billion that she has just done this under the guise of she's helping people, and she's not helping people. The migrants are set up for failure with this program, believe it or not, even though they have all of their bills paid for and they have, housing, they have food. None of the requirements required them to ever learn to speak English. And anytime that I had group meetings with people and said, hey, listen, it'd be in your best interest to learn English, we actually bring in English as second language teachers, and we encourage you to do. People would come up to me and say, you're a racist. You can't tell us what language we can and cannot speak. And I would try to explain, like, hey, I'm not judging you. I'm just telling you that in this country, you're going to make more money in your job if you know how to speak English.
So the migrants would tell you that you're racist for asking them to learn to speak English?
All the time. All the time I would get that. Any type of rule policy that we ever put in place, the race card was always pulled. And I don't know this gentleman, as I said earlier. I'm just assuming he's probably working under the table, because a lot of these people living in the shelter would work under the table. I actually would very commonly shoo away landscapers, carpenters, day labor people. They would come and just come and sweep through the parking lot at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and try to pick people up, because a lot of the migrants learned, like, wait a minute, my EBT card benefits get cut if I have a job. In Marlboro, there is a big food processing plant real close to this migrant shelter, Ken's, and they do a lot of good work. And they tried to work with the migrant community and actually offered them jobs and stuff. And then they kind of got burned, because once people were there about a month and then they realized they were losing their EBT card benefits, they all just started working under the table. Not all, but most.
You're probably wondering when John felt like he couldn't be a part of this anymore. Now, towards the end, he reveals the exact moment where he had enough, but you can already see the process beginning. Migrants are working under the table while simultaneously receiving thousands of dollars a month in benefits as well as free housing. Except that is only just the beginning. While at the shelter, I noticed cars with Lyft stickers on the back. This family, for example, I saw them getting out of of their own car and then just a short while later in the back of this Lyft. You can also see the same family here in the lobby again. So migrants are wealthy enough to purchase their own cars, but they're also getting tax-funded Lyft rides?
Well, to answer your question, who's paying for it? You got a mirror? Take a look inside the mirror. You are, I am, the taxpayers are. It's all part of, Elliott has a contract with both Uber and Lyft, and they just pay them directly. Well, you saw it in even some of your video shows that everybody has a nice car, or not, or most of them have nice cars. But when they have a doctor's appointment in Boston, or they have a immigration hearing in New Hampshire, which is an hour and a half away, you think they use their own car? Nope. They say, "Oh, I need an Uber. I need a Lyft."
Yeah.
And so even though they have their own nice car, they still make the taxpayer pay it.
How much is given for rides for Uber and Lyft?
The amount of money that we would spend on Ubers and Lyft was well in excess of $100,000 a month.
A month?
A month, yeah. So you were over one. I would say a good estimate was about $1.2 million a year, just for Ubers and Lyfts. Yep.
Before we dive into the cover-ups of major crime and millions of dollars more in benefits and getting the police called on me by the people getting rich off this crisis, I want to discuss how the migrant crisis isn't just hitting America, and it's actually even worse in Europe. Soon I'll be going there to follow the money and investigate how United States taxpayer dollars are being used overseas. However, in America last Friday, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to end temporary legal protections for more than 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The left from CBC News says the American dream is over, while people on the right from The Blaze emphasize how it's a big win to remove over 500,000 unvetted foreign nationals that came in during the Biden administration. This is a prime example of how biased the media can be, and it's exactly why I rely on Ground News for my reporting. It's an app and website that pulls together over 50,000 news sources across the political spectrum, all in one place. It doesn't just show you the stories that are getting attention, it actually reveals what's not being talked about by the lefts and the rights. So if you're sick and tired of the mainstream media's one-sided spin and want to take back control of your news, subscribe to get 40% off their Vantage plan for unlimited access at ground.news/Friedman. The link is right there in the description below, or just scan the QR code. By subscribing, you're directly supporting this channel and our boots on the ground reporting, so we can keep these investigations going strong. And now back to the shelter. As I walked up the hill to the actual entrance of the shelter, I stopped this white car driving down and asked to speak to him. What he revealed to me shows immeasurable waste happening inside migrant shelters.
Do you live here?
No.
No? Are you an Uber?
No, don't speak Spanish, no. You are Uber Eats.
Uber Eats.
Yes.
Oh, Uber Eats.
A nonprofit that's already charging the taxpayer $42 per migrant meal is also ordering Uber Eats to the shelter. Now, we exposed Elliott Community Services, the company running this shelter, in the first episode of this series. They have a CEO named Melinda Matthews who is being paid over $400,000 a year to run these migrant shelters, and just so happens to be a donor of Governor Healy. Not only is she a donor, but John tells me that they are also known friends. If you go to Elliott's Facebook page, not a mention is made about the fact that they run these migrant shelters. And if you go to their website, all the images of their team members are wiped off the site. Now, as I continued my way around the shelter, I noticed this school bus.
That is free daycare provided to the shelter.
Wow. Okay. So every day they take the kids to a daycare center?
No, they come there and provide daycare right on site there.
Oh, right on site.
The right to shelter law is actually only for women, only for females. The right to shelter law, as it's written in Massachusetts, is any of the migrants that are placed there are women who also have children. Now, a lot of times people will say that, that this is my husband, this is my spouse, which is not really true. It's just somebody that they met on the way to the border. And you hear some very horrific stories that, either you let me pretend to be your husband or your boyfriend or your cousin or something, or I'll kill your kid. So a lot of times, like, the women are under distress and they're not married, but, a traditional marriage that you would see here in the United States. So everybody in the shelter has to have children. You either have to be pregnant or you have to have children.
Now you're starting to see that these shelters in Massachusetts are not just a place to live. In fact, they offer wraparound services for people who are here illegally. They're receiving treatment that no American could get without paying thousands of dollars out of pocket.
Right, and I would like to
That's
know
fucked
how
up.
much. And I would like to know how much they spent on North Carolina and how much they spent on Maui.
Yes, exactly. What's actually happening is they're buying voters. That's really what's happening. It's like a giant voter fraud scam. They're importing voters, and it's really just a matter of time. So, if a lot of people have trouble believing this, but the more you look at it, the more you will realize just how much of a problem this is, and how it's not just real. It is an attempt to destroy democracy in America. That's what, in my view, it is what it really is. Like, if you take the sort of 7 swing states, like, often the margin of victory there is like maybe 20,000 votes. If you put 200,000 illegals in there.
Musk went on to suggest that U.S. policy has created a feedback loop.
And they have like a 80% likelihood of voting Dem. And it's only a matter of time before they become citizens. Then those swing states will not be swing states in the future. And if they are not swing states, we'll be a permanent one-party state country. Permanent, deep blue socialist state. That's what America will become.
And that was the game plan.
That was the game plan. That is still the game plan. And they almost succeeded. If the machine of which the Kamala puppet was the representation had won, that's what would have happened. The reason I went so hardcore for Trump was because, to me, this was a fork in the road, a very obvious fork in the road.
Universities raise tuition, government regulations grow heavier, malpractice lawsuits increase. Musk has acknowledged that the core idea behind "Make America Great Again" resonates with many Americans who feel left behind by globalization.
Because what we need is action right now. I mean, be people that are leaders for once. And let's not go back to 2020 when they were burning down the city of Minneapolis and you had people like Tim Walz encouraging it. I mean, this has been going on now by Democrat politicians for years, and that's why Donald Trump is in the White House. He's the only guy who fights for every single American. And I'm so proud to work for him. I can't believe it. I can't believe that these dummies in the Democrat Party are still around and getting elected.
Secretary Noem, you talk about consequences. One of the folks involved here was labor union leader David Huerta. Is he going to go to jail? And what kind of penalties could we expect to see for him? And is this the opportunity to send a statement to so-called leaders about what they do with respect to the actual rule of law?
You know, I don't know what the prosecution will be like because obviously we've got judges out there that are weaponizing the judicial system as well. But yes, I believe that we will press charges against everybody that has broken a law last night, and we should do that. And we'll continue to do our ICE operations. We'll continue to make sure everybody in this country has the law equally applied to them. And these leaders, I don't think we need to make examples out of them. I think we need to make examples out of criminals. And if the leaders are criminals, then they need to face the consequences too. That's just the way this country works, and that's how freedom works. Freedom works when everybody has justice applied equally to them.
If they had another 4 years, they would legalize enough illegals in the swing states to make the swing states not swing states. They would be blue states. Then they would win the presidential. They'd win the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They would then make district, D.C. into a state. Maybe Puerto Rico, get 4 extra senators, pack the Supreme Court. So then you'll have the House, Judiciary, Senate, and presidency, all blue. And then they will keep importing more illegals to cement that outcome. Basically what happened in California.
Jesus Christ.
It would have been the end. That's why I went so hardcore for Trump. It was otherwise been the end, and that's why the Democrat machine is so intent on destroying me.
Meanwhile, large hospital networks quietly lobby for looser immigration rules to meet staffing needs with cheaper labor. According to Musk, the U.S. healthcare system has become dangerously reliant on immigrant labor, not out of strategic diversity, but because the system has made it financially and mentally impossible for many young Americans to enter the profession.
It's just so fascinating that people can't see this.
I mean, I invite people to do their research. The more they do their research, the more they will see that what I'm saying is absolutely true. It's like, just do the research.
Yeah. It's such a bad idea, even for the Democrats, which is what they don't understand. Like, it's the same
it's not
people.
ultimately going to work out.
No, it's the same people.
Yes.
It's just they're doing it under the guise that they're the kind, compassionate, progressive people.
Yes.
But the same outcome takes place. It's just about control. They probably institute some central bank digital currency and some social credit score system. And then
censorship, of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, that was the big fear coming into this election, was that if they can't censor things like... we talked about it before, but there was two major forks in the road. The big one was Trump didn't get shot.
Yep.
The other big one was you buy Twitter.
Yeah.
And if those two things don't happen, the whole world looks different.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't want to be on that timeline.
No, we don't want to have only one side represented, because guess what? They will hijack that side, whatever it is. They will hijack that side and use it for money and control, and that's what it's all about.
It's a system designed to maintain dependence, he added, not to empower citizens.
I mean, I think these things are actually, it's easy to understand if you look at basic incentives. The basic incentive here is the more illegals that the Democrats can bring in, the more likely they are to win. So that's what they're going to do. That's what they have been doing, and it worked in California. California's supermajority Dem.
So speaking of enforcing the law, Kilmar Abrego Garcia has been returned to the United States to face criminal charges for trafficking illegal immigrants into the U.S. after Democrats hailed him as a hero. You know, it really is kind of amazing when you look at those images that we're watching from L.A., and then you think about this guy who has now been charged with human trafficking involving, including children. I can't help but look at all of it through the lens of politics. It's so bad I don't know how Democrats, how they get out of this situation where they're defending this lawlessness, and in particular, defending a guy who has been charged with human trafficking of children.
It wasn't that he just did it. It's that a grand jury said it was his full-time job.
Yeah.
The guy spent his life trafficking people and children and selling them into slavery. So he's back. He's getting prosecuted. Then he'll be returning back to El Salvador. But the fact that we had Democrat politicians and Van Hollen down there defending him and standing beside him, buying him margaritas, when this guy trafficked children for a living and did it as his full-time job, is just, it shouldn't be shocking. It still is shocking to me that we have people like this that go so far out on a limb just to be a big frickin' deal in a political arena where they think that actually works. It doesn't work. It's not going to work anymore. The American people are sick of it.
But, Secretary, now, you look at that, you look at the defense of this guy, even going to El Salvador, a couple of politicians. Why? Why are they doubling down on protecting this illegal immigrant involved with so many horrific things? Why?
I had this conversation with Van Hollen in committee, and he couldn't defend himself. He couldn't defend himself. He kept saying, oh, you didn't give him judicial process. You didn't give him the right to have due process. Absolutely, we did. And you went down there anyways and went down there and stood beside someone who's a wife beater, a human trafficker, and said that you support that guy. I said, when's the last time you did that for one of your constituents, one of the people who live in your state and actually need your help? When's the last time you fought that hard for those individuals? Instead, because you thought it was political and it would work for you, you went and stood by a criminal, a guy who has abused children his entire life. So the more we educate the American public on what these Democrats are doing, the more they realize they've just abandoned this country. Last night they were burning American flags in the streets in L.A. And the leaders in L.A. let that happen. They were taking American flags and lighting them on fire. Those are not people who love America and people who want justice for everybody. Those are people who are trying to perpetuate violence to promote an agenda. And I saw this in 2020 all across this country where they used fear to control people. And that's what Democrats are doing. They're trying to use fear to control people. And our law enforcement officers, every day when they go to work, they're concerned about losing their lives. And their moms and children and wives are worried about losing their family members. And it's not right. So the fact we have a president that's in the White House that's going to make sure that this isn't going to go on, every single person that throws a rock or a bottle where we have jurisdiction, they're going to get arrested. They just are. Every single weapon assault, anytime you write something like kill ICE, you are going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent that we have the ability to do that and bring consequences down.
And California made healthcare free for illegals.
Yeah.
As of last year. So and that obviously that's a gigantic magnet for more illegals. And this is not a thing you can solve simply with money, because what happens is you simply have more patients than a doctor can possibly see.
Immigration should be a bonus, not a crutch, Musk said. If you're building a civilization, you have to invest in your own people first. Otherwise, you're just renting talent, and rented talent doesn't stay forever.
And you can't just, make doctors out of nothing. So sometimes people are like, oh, it's just a money thing. No, it takes a long time for somebody to become a doctor. 30 years. And so what actually happens in California is that there are too many patients for the doctors to see. So then the average citizen in California suffers as a result. Now, the elite in California are fine because they have private doctors. They can just pay for the best doctors. So the elite in California are doing fine, but your average citizen in California is not doing fine. And the tax burden for healthcare for illegals was supposed to be $3 billion. I think they now estimate it's $9 billion. But that number will scale to infinity. Basically, it's like, why not?
The episode ended with Musk calling for a complete redesign of the medical education model, including the integration of AI in diagnosis and treatment.
Right. Why not? If you need any operation at all, come to California and have it be free.
Right.
From anywhere on earth.
And the people that want to look at it in the most charitable way, they say, oh, well, these people are hardworking, good people, and they're the backbone of our city, and they should have access to all the things that we have access to. And I just don't think they understand that it's a political pawn. I don't think they understand.
It's a political game.
This is not done for compassion and kindness.
No.
This is just done to ensure that it stays blue.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's essentially a bribery with your tax dollars.
Yes, this is why the Dems will not even deport criminals.
Yeah.
Because every criminal deported is a lost vote. So even if somebody is an illegal with a criminal record and commits crime in America, they are still were not being deported.
And then on top of that, California made it actually illegal to ask for ID when people vote.
Yes. California and New York, you are not allowed to show your ID when you vote. I just want to be clear so everyone understands this. In California and New York, you are not allowed to show your ID even if you want to.
Right.
Fast-track training for critical roles and a cultural shift that rewards innovation rather than compliance.
Why would that ever be a good idea?
I mean,
if you're
trying to facilitate fraud in elections, it's a great idea.
That's the only reason.
Yes.
There's no other reason logically why that would be a good idea.
It's for fraud. It's like wake up, sheeple. Wake up. Hello.
And they're obviously also trying to slow down, halt deportations. Now, Abrego Garcia, if he's convicted, he'll serve his time and then he'll be deported. Is there any world in which what's happening now on the streets of places like L.A. slows down in any way the deportations that the Trump administration is pursuing?
What's what they're trying to do? They're trying to slow us down and scare people and officers from doing their jobs, and they're trying to use the judicial courts ones that they think are more friendly or activists to slow us down from being able to do the job that the American people want us to do. We're going to do things right. We're going to run our cases, make sure that everybody is afforded the ability that they have to go through a legal process, but we're going to get them out of this country because Joe Biden allowed an invasion to happen of dangerous criminals, and the laws in this country matter. All we are doing is enforcing the law. If these protesters want the laws to change, go talk to your senator. Go talk to your congressman, because we are following the law. If you want the law to change, go talk to Congress, and they should change the law. Don't be throwing rocks and bottles and attacking and punching officers that are just upholding the laws that are in this country and have been here for years.
That's well said. That's how democracy actually works as opposed to a tyranny.
And the people that want to look at it in the most charitable way, they say, oh, well, these people are hardworking, good people, and they're the backbone of our city, and they should have access to all the things that we have access to. And I just don't think they understand that it's a political pawn. I don't think they understand.
It's a political game.
This is not done for compassion and kindness.
No.
This is just done to ensure that it stays blue.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's essentially a bribery with your tax dollars.
Yes, this is why the Dems will not even deport criminals.
Yeah.
Because every criminal deported is a lost vote. So even if somebody is an illegal with a criminal record and commits crime in America, they are still were not being deported.